Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sibyl's Lab of Cartomantics. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Amelia.
And this is Sibyl Unscripted. This is the series where we two people put tarot into conversation with any fiction or film of our choosing. I'm a literature and film professor, so I'm bringing some of that vibe to what we're doing, but especially today, we're bringing more snark and pop girly energy. We will be discussing Legally Blonde, the 2001 cult classic. We're really excited about it. I wore pink in honor of the film. Amelia, take it from here.
Hello, friends. So here's a super duper quick summary of the movie for those who maybe have never seen it before, or it has at least been a few decades between now and the last time they had this particular pleasure. But it starts out with our girl, Elle Woods, who is a lover of pink. She's from California, and she is in her senior year of college, and she is desperate to become the wife of her boyfriend, Warner Huntington III. But the movie starts out with him dumping her for being a little too Marilyn Monroe for his family's East Coast tastes. He says that his future at Harvard Law and beyond requires a serious woman. So on a whim, Elle decides to study up to follow him out to Harvard and win him back at law school. Of course, shenanigans ensue as we watch this clever, over-the-top Valley girl immerse herself in the humorless and judgmental experience of Harvard. All the expected stuff happens. She grows as a person. She drops Warner and comes into herself as a confident woman and a fabulous and fierce lawyer.
Excellent. And I didn't warn us, there are going to be spoilers. There were just a bunch of spoilers. But this movie is from 24 years ago. So if you didn't know, you know now. For my deck today, I'm going to be using the Neoteric Feminine Tarot by Spell. There are two editions of this deck. There's a titles only edition, which is what I'll be using, and there's a keyword edition. I got my edition on Kickstarter, but it is for sale now. Mass market, you can get it for, I just checked, $17 on Amazon. So we'll have the link for that in the video description. But I chose this deck because it is very pink, very color palette appropriate. This movie is about the girls for the girls. This is an all-female figure deck. But it has fun depictions, but has, I think, the intelligent architecture of tarot underneath it. So it seemed like a perfect fit.
I am using the Sacred Sisterhood Tarot, published in 2021 by Red Wheel, I believe. This is also a very femme deck, lots of femme representations in here, and I picked it simply for this exact same reason, because this is a movie for the girls, and this is a deck for the girls and the femme presenting. And this is a lovely deck, and I think Elle would approve of this deck in the way that it's intended to make people feel welcome and included, and I think that vibes with her.
We definitely needed some Elle-approved decks. I wish they had showed her using tarot. All right, guys, now let's put tarot and the cards into conversation with the story. We're going to start by saying what our impressions are of the film, and we're going to use tarot to do that. So choose 1 to 2 cards to give an impression to you of how we were feeling about it. For my cards, I chose 2, the Tower and the Sun. The Tower for the great big breakup, the catastrophic destruction of self that happens at the beginning. Everything is kicked off by Warner breaking her heart in this public restaurant scene. It's so vile of him. But that is our moment of setting the story off. And for the second, I chose the Sun. This is so Elle. Like, that is baby Elle riding the back of a unicorn. She's such a sunny character. I almost chose the Star because after the breakup, she gets her she knows what she wants to do. And once she fixes on going to Harvard, everything is like, go, go, go. I'm happy. I'm positive again. But she brings such optimism everywhere she goes. Once she gets to Harvard, there's still that sunniness, despite everybody's Debbie Downer attitude. So this seemed like a great and appropriate card for this story. How about you?
So I also picked two. My first card that I'm going for is Judgment. I mean, first off, this is such a celebratory version of Judgment, and this whole movie kind of feels like a celebration of sorts, a celebration of, of being in your own, and also of female friendships specifically. And even, I would say even, outside of female friendships, because we have the friendship that kind of develops between Elle and Luke Wilson, Emmett. Is that right?
Dreamy Luke Wilson.
I just rewatched this the other day. It was such a joy to rewatch this, by the way. I had a blast. But yes, no, I picked this, but also because there's like, Elle kind of steps into her calling in this movie. Like, it's really about her finding her way into something that she is really well suited for, she's really skilled at, and it just kind of feels like she has found her place. And then the other card I picked is the Fool, because I also feel like this is a bit of a fool's journey story. Like, she sets off at the beginning deciding that she wants to apply to law school with a fashion merchandising degree, like had no intentions of going to law school, let alone getting any degree beyond her bachelor's. And then something clicked in her brain, which was her boyfriend dumping her. And she decided, you know what, I'm going to jump in feet first. And also Elle just has that, like, she's such an interesting character because she's like the good thing that can happen when you're never told that you can't do something. She just has this like unfettered confidence in everything that she does. She doesn't ever feel like it's not going to go well. And it kind of is surprising to her when people aren't nice to her. And, and so I feel like there's so much of the energy of the Fool as we move throughout the film.
Yes. Did you stuck with those cards, or it was just Judgment or Judgment and the Fool?
Judgment and the Fool together.
Well, we are transitioning now to cards specifically for Elle. We're going to be talking about specific characters, the cards that represent those characters, doing some readings about those characters and the story based on how we see things. So we'll be doing some tarot readings for the characters. Today, we are going to be dropping Warner. Forget Warner. He's not that interesting. We are looking at the girls. So we'll be looking at Elle, of course. We'll be looking at Vivian, her enemy and arch nemesis at the beginning, and Paulette, lovely Jennifer Coolidge, who is such a terrific character. We'll look at those three, but kick off with Elle. So I asked you to repeat yourself because I chose two cards for Elle, one of which is the Fool. I didn't intend to do this, but I realized I ended up choosing one major and one court card for each of the characters. So for Elle, I chose the Fool for precisely the reason that you said, right? I mean, look at this Fool. Sparkly and pink, and here's Bruiser, and the sun is shining. There's everything happy. And I really like what you're saying. Like, no one told her she couldn't do anything. Usually I don't like those people. Like, someone needs to rein in your expectations, but God, do I watch this? I rewatched this and thought, like, I want her confidence and her sunniness, what I wouldn't give for that. I'm a professor. Part of me, when she has this scene where she goes and says, I want to go to Harvard with my fashion merchandising degree. What's the LSAT? Like, you crazy idiot. Of course you can't just change your mind and go to Harvard, but like, what I wouldn't give for that level of confidence. So I just love it on her. It's sweet and encouraging and enthusiastic and not irritating. For her second card, her court card, I chose the Page of Pentacles. First, that little basket of bread reminds me of the scene where she goes to the library and brings baked goods so that she can join the study group. I absolutely love that. And also, I envision this character, this figure, as someone who is not French, but is visiting France and decides to dress up like they're French. Like, Elle is eager to fit in, which is not, I think, a strength of character. She really wants to kind of see how she can adjust to fit in, but she does it her way and decides that until she can learn the culture of the place, she's going to wear the trappings of the place. So I love like performing and putting on the costume. I think that those are great representations of her. How about you?
Okay, so the cards that I picked for Elle are two. So one is the Queen of Wands, or La Reine de Bâton,
Ooh.
from the Sacred Sisterhood Tarot. She is, I mean, for all of this kind of the same reasons that you picked the Page of Pentacles, like it's that kind of outward expressiveness of her.
Yes.
She's just, everything is on the surface, and not in a way that feels meek or feels vulnerability is her strength, I'll say that. And I feel like this queen, with her, like, she's nearly nude, she's got just the cloth covering, and she is really open and exposed and also kind of unafraid of that. And I feel like that is Elle. Like, she is vulnerable, she's on the surface, she is here in all of her glory, and that, like, she's not afraid of that. She doesn't really have any second guessings about that, and I think that's so cool about her. The other card I picked for her is the Magician, because I think, again, it's kind of that idea of her coming into her own. She really learns how to use all of these things that are already inherently so wonderful about her as tools to be really successful and also to help other people. It kind of starts with her using even just her, like, 2 bits of knowledge about the law to help Paulette get her dog back from her ex. Like, it's just, she is such a kind person, but she also, this movie is her journey of learning what assets she has and how she can use them really effectively. I think that's cool. I like Elle.
I do too.
All right, so taking all of this into consideration, we're going to read some cards for her. So Elle may go to Harvard because of a very unworthy ex-boyfriend, but everything turns out for the best. She becomes a skilled lawyer who is just as professionally and socially successful as she was in her roles in California. But we have to think, what about the plans that she abandoned in order to follow Warner? What about the life that she originally wanted? What future did Elle leave behind? Or are we meant to think that she would have settled for a vapid California girl existence if she hadn't made her way to Harvard? So I guess the question then is, what would have happened to Elle if she hadn't gone to Harvard?
Yeah, I struggle with this because, there's a moment in the story where she says, like, no one, I think it's when she's going to leave Harvard because she's just, the professor has harassed her. Vivian's been mean to her. And she said, no one takes me seriously. Like, no one expects anything from me. So, but she's so smart. So I'm like, what was the plan? Was she going to become like a corporate fashion merchandiser? And it just so happens she's doing this. So, okay, what is going to happen next for her? Are we each choosing a card? I forget how we do this.
Yeah, let's do that. We can each choose a card. So what would have happened to her if she had stayed in California?
Okay. I have the Ace of Cups.
I have the Four of Swords.
Ooh.
Look at how sheltered this card is.
Yeah.
First off, who doesn't love a good blanket fort? And it looks so cozy in there. Like, it's definitely, California is a very comfortable existence for her. She knows her way around there. She knows her way around the culture, around the community. This would have been a very comfortable life for her, but it also would have been really closed off, really, sheltered, like I said. Could you hold up your ace really quick? Yeah, and there's something, I mean, normally the ace is such a lovely card, right? Like, we see it and it gives us the happy feels. But I can't help but think about it numerologically, and the ace is just one, right? And it's like the beginnings of something that never took off. And I have this feeling that, like, her life just would have stayed. It would have stayed in that one, in that ace energy.
Maybe it's the optimism of the color. So I'm with you. I think what would happen is that she would have, I love the blanket fort. Like she would have been home still. That's where her mom and dad were. That's where all of her social network still is. And we know they stayed there because they come to visit her. And there was a version of herself there that was very blanket fort, but like a pink blanket and like sparkles and feathers and whatever. I like to think of the Ace of Cups as the metaphor of baptism, like being washed anew, being born fresh. And I like to think optimistically that she would have gone into that kind of stasis after college, but eventually like she would start again. That ace is like eventually she would be reborn as something else. Like it wouldn't be lawyer, it would be something else, and it would take her longer, right? I think, like, who knows if the Four of Swords is fun and playful and you are rewarded for that, she gets social and like social currency for the role that she had there, then I think she has every reason to stay there. But I hope that she would have eventually become something else. Fashion merchandising is kind of dismissed in this movie. Like, oh, she's just a fashion merchandising. That is serious work. I don't know, and it's clear she's a really smart woman. So she would have done something. She is capable of doing something great, I think, wherever she landed. So
I just think the California version would have been a very contained version of that. Yeah, and that ace, I mean, there's like two sides of that, right? There is the oneness of the ace, but then there's also this idea that maybe it was this itch that she couldn't quite scratch, But yeah, that four of swords, I have it right here. A very protected life, a life that is comfortable.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Vivian Kensington. What a name. Doesn't that name tell us everything about her? I'm going to find my cards for her. But here's the deal with Vivian. So we like to look at the protagonist, or the antagonist, rather. Elle, our protagonist. Like, there are different versions of the antagonist here. Warner is definitely the bad guy. He doesn't just break up with her. You're allowed to do that at the end of college, right? Who hasn't had a breakup at the end of some like semester or school year or whatever? He does it publicly, and he does it really cruelly. Like, I don't need a Marilyn, I need a Jackie O. But like we said at the beginning, he's not a really interesting person. He's shallow. But Vivian is a nuanced character. I think that Selma Blair does a fantastic job with her. She is Warner's prep school ex-girlfriend, and he makes it very clear. They both make it clear to Elle, even though it's not sort of direct, like she's the right kind and you're not. And they're so visually different. She starts out the movie as a smug, mean girl and is so cruel. She rubs the relationship with Warner in Elle's face, shows the great big family diamond, embarrasses her, invites her to a party, and tells her it's a costume party. Here's the thing about that. Elle, take off the ears. There was no reason for her to keep those Playboy bunny ears on the entire night. Like, there was no reason for that. But in any case, I love that for her. But we see Vivian transform, right? So what are my cards? Let me find my cards for her.
Well, I've got mine at the ready, so I'll go ahead.
You tell us
about so my first card that I pulled for Vivian is the Nine of Pentacles, because here's the woman who has it all. Like, she has everything that Elle wants. She's got the ring. She's got the man. She's got the East Coast country club life, right? Like, Vivian is the goal. And so that's how I feel like we start with her. Yeah. And then she also, like, we come to find out. So first off, I love the kings in this deck. They're all facing away from us. Yeah. And there's just something so poignant about that. But this is the King of Swords, and we've got stacks of books, an owl, and a figure facing away from us. And I feel like that is so Vivian, like that there is so much more than meets the eye, but she won't let us see it. It's only in those few moments with Elle throughout the movie that we really get to see her softer side. We really get to see the insecurities underneath it all. And she also is a person who's kind of married to her intelligence. Like, she really hangs a lot of her worth on that. And we get to see her in situations throughout the movie where, even though she's a very intelligent woman, she's not valued for that intelligence, and kind of dismissed, basically, because of her womanhood and because she is not an Elle type of woman. And so I think, that's like Vivian. I don't think it's Vivian at the end, but it's part of her journey in the movie. There's a lot to be said about Vivian. I think she's one of the more interesting characters in the movie.
Absolutely. And she has the right pedigree, but you're right. She's not sexy like Elle is. She doesn't have those like 4 hours in the hot tub stories with Warner like Elle does. Okay, for my cards, I chose Justice. I think for a lot of the same reasons that you chose the King of Wands. She's all about standards. She's about doing things the right way. There are expectations. She's meeting those expectations. But as I was thinking about this, she's really insecure. And I think she has the sort of shadow face of justice that she weaponizes against herself, constantly measuring herself. And we don't get an impression of her as someone who likes herself very much. There's a kind of desperation to her desire to show off to Elle how happy they are and look at how smart she is. And so when we see her being ugly to Elle, it feels like kind of a projection of how she talks to herself and feels about herself. For the second card, I chose the Page of Swords. Isn't that like a fierce dress with swinging a sword? I love it. We see her. She comes out swinging at Elle, doesn't she? I mean, she is so nasty. Think about it now. I have warm feelings towards Vivian, but she's a mean girl. She brought out my high school mean girl wanting to bully her back. I did not like her energy at all. So we see her eventually. It feels like she turns that sword away from Elle towards the bad guys, towards the groping professor, towards Warner, who's dismissive and a user and selfish. So it's nice to see that. But it is a journey. She's swinging a sword both directions at different points. Okay, for question, our reading for Vivian. This was a sort of bone to pick that I had with the movie. We get the note at the end that as Elle is giving her speech at graduation, that her and Vivian have become best friends. I don't buy it. I don't like, even as we saw them getting along, I didn't get this impression of deep connection. It's true, there's women supporting women, but I don't think you have to be best friends in order to represent a kind of evolution of respect and kindness and support. So I want to read the cards on, does she really become Elle's best friend? If so, she would presumably have to lose her other social circle. Like, the club set are not going to accommodate a Marilyn Monroe unless we believe that Elle has completely transformed the social landscape of Harvard Law. I have friends who went to Harvard Law. Elle did not do that. She did not do that. There is no Elle who would do that. So yeah, let's see, what is the truth of their friendship? I don't think it's helpful to say, like, let's read the cards on whether the director lied to us, but I just don't believe it. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I could believe it in a certain kind of context. So it's just figuring out what that context is. So, like, how does the truth of their friendship fit into the overall, like, story? Yeah. All right, let's see. Interesting. We have our Ace of Cups again.
Ooh, we got an Ace of Wands.
Oh. I mean, these two are like fire and water together, aren't they? They're total opposites. You could not find two more opposite people. Like, if we were to find a way that this friendship fits within the context of Harvard Law and just the like all of Vivian's former friends and that sort of stuff. I have a feeling that maybe they became friends, but they didn't necessarily move within the same social circles. They were, you have those friends that it's like, I am really good friends with this person, but they're not part of my group of friends.
Mm-hmm.
And the two aces just makes me think of that.
You know what? I really like that. I like the idea. It seems as if there's the implication that they both became sort of cleaner and fresher versions of themselves and found each other through that redefining. They both shook off Warner and all of Warner's stuff. Like Vivian liked being his fiance. Elle desperately wanted to be his fiance. And then they were both like, this dirtbag over here. We need so like we're over him. There is something beautiful about that. I will maybe forgive the movie if they remove the word best. They can replace it with close friends, but I like that. I'm happy with your answer, Taro.
All right. And we have a bonus question here. So when and how do Vivian and Warner end up breaking up? Does it happen in year one after all of the internship drama in the court case, or is it a slow breakdown with them kind of dissolving as they progress through law school and her and Elle become closer? So, all right, Taro, give us the deets on Vivian and Warner's breakup.
I hope it was public. I hope Vivian humiliated him in public.
Spill the tea.
I heard men break up with women at restaurants because they don't think we'll make scenes there. Like, I don't know if that's a true thing. Elle made a scene.
Have you ever been broken up with in a restaurant?
No. I've never been broken up with in that kind of like dramatic scene way in public or private. Like I've certainly had relationships dissolve and I've had them dissolve on someone else's terms. It's not like no one's ever broken up with me, but it's never been that kind of like, I don't want to date you anymore. So there's never been a scene of that kind. But I do feel like I've dated guys who would be like, how can I strategize this so that she won't be like, I won't have to deal with her, right? Like I feel like that would have my younger self, somebody would be like, how can I get out of like doing this? This is like looking in the mirror right now, being honest about ourselves. Have you ever been broken up with in public?
Not in a public way. I mean, I have had someone just break up with me in, that sort of a way, but not public.
Yeah.
Have I broken up with anybody in public? I don't know. I don't think so.
I wouldn't do that. It's so cruel.
It does feel really mean.
It is so cruel. It's like, hi, can we do something that will be painful? Because even if it's like, you both know it's a mutual, this isn't a fit thing. So you don't think he's going to be like desperately heartbroken. It's an unkind thing. Like, Warner, you are a dirtbag. Like, you're just
his whole like continuing to call her Pooh Bear. Anyway, okay, so let's find out how he and Vivian break up. I got the world.
I got the Page of Wands. I'm here to say this Page of Wands is Vivian, and she came out for him. I feel like she was like aggressive and assertive in her coming at it. But what do you? I'm just reading that Page of Wands energy. What are you getting?
I mean, it happened quickly. She vaulted out of that relationship, and I actually think it happened probably after the internship.
Yeah.
There's something about that. The world, to me, indicates that it was at kind of a big changing point in her life, right? Like the internships represented a passage for her from one thing into the next, and that it was part of that internship was her vaulting herself out of that relationship and getting out of it quickly. And she has, I mean, look at all of these hands surrounding our figure in the middle. Like she had the support of Elle and the kind of friendships she had built, and particularly Elle. I'm going to go back to that, but supporting her decision to get out. That either she vaulted herself or she vaulted him. There's something about the image of the pole vaulter that I'm like, one of them got thrown. Either by throwing herself or throwing him out. I don't think it happened publicly, though.
Because even a dude who deserves it, like a person who deserves to be broken up with, it shouldn't be done like that. That's so gross.
I don't know. What do we take of the world? Does the world mean it happened in front of the world, or was it a private moment?
Well, I think that it means that Warner was deeply invested in the world's view of him. It feels like he was very defined by like the totality of who is Warner to the world. Warner is the kind of guy who's like engaged to Jackie O. So even if it was private, I suspect he made such a spectacle of like, look at the prep school princess I got engaged to, that everyone would know. Like, where'd the diamond go? That was a nice ring.
It's a really nice ring. I'm here for it.
All right. I'm going to keep looking for my cards, but we cannot end transitioning to our last character. We normally only do two, but we could not end without talking about Jennifer Coolidge's portrayal of Paulette. Paulette is amazing and such a fun character. And she is kind of Elle's home base during an emotional and traumatic transition to Harvard. So
I've got my cards.
You go for it. Okay, I finally found mine, but you go for it.
So I picked the 9 of Wands for her. I mean, this is a woman who has clearly been through it when we meet her. She has seen war, she has seen battle on the relationship field. And I think that's why Elle feels so connected to her at first, is because, I mean, through her vulnerability, she also gives space for Paulette to share about her experiences. But here's a woman who's also been through it and has experienced what this feels like. And so I think, that's our Paulette. And then I also picked the Page of Cups for her, because even though she's kind of been through hell and back, there is just a sweetness to Paulette. There is just a she's so eager to learn new things from this beautiful Elle Woods that randomly sits down at her table at the salon. And she doesn't think very highly of herself. I think if she were to identify herself, she would identify herself as a page. She would not feel like she inhabits a queen. And she absolutely does in her own way. But there is this sort of almost self-deprecating nature that she has about herself, but she's not mean to herself. It's very sweet. She's very, I don't know how to explain it, but the Page of Cups is her for me.
The court card I chose for her was the Knight of Cups. She is very cups. I chose this card because I think that so much of her journey is figuring out who she likes. We kind of know right away, right? Like the FedEx guy or whatever the delivery guy is. But it's not just I like him and going after him. It's deciding, oh, I deserve a man who is attractive and kind to me. Her ex, there's a little darkness here, right? Because Warner is a jerk. Her ex is abusive. He is clearly an abusive figure. To be with someone for years and just throw them out, the way we see him talk to her, I'm glad the movie doesn't make a kind of spectacle of let's look at this picture of domestic abuse. That would be trivializing it. That's not what the movie is, but that's dark. And to see her transform into the bend and snap, I'm gonna go for the guy, and they're expecting their first child at the end who's gonna be named Elle. It's really lovely. So I like that. And I chose the Empress as well, because she is that kind, nurturing, loving presence when Elle needs someone to see her and value her, and someone that they can both connect with. So I think that those are a great pairing. All right, question about Paulette. We see her reclaim Rufus the dog. I love that Rufus and Brewster become friends. I am a dog lover, so the whole subtext of the dog, like love and valuing, makes me very happy. So she gets Rufus back, but does he get what he deserves? I looked up his name. His name is Dewey. What a despicable name that is for a despicable guy. If you're a Dewey out there, we love you, but we do not love this Dewey. So let's see. Does Dewey ever get what he deserves, or is the end of it just she gets Rufus and moves on with her life? My little Rufus, Theo, is over here asleep.
No.
You have two little Rufuses too. All right, what card do you have?
I have the Queen of Cups.
I have the Six of Cups. More cups, lots of cups for her.
Lots of cups.
I look at the Six of Cups and cannot help but think of the end of the movie where she's having her first child with her now husband.
But what does that have to do with Dewey, though? Like,
it makes me think that she just moved on. It makes me think that she, like, that queen is her coming into herself. He is in, like, she doesn't even think of him. And that is great, right? Like, petty me is like, let's go light his mobile home on fire. And she's like, I'm just going to go build a life. How about that? How about I go have a child and, like, create something beautiful? So I'm here for that on principle, but the petty in me would really, really like to see Dewey suffer.
Well, and I think there is a certain amount of vindication in him having to see her life go so well.
Yes. Who wins a breakup? I absolutely believe in.
Yeah.
Says the 41-year-old woman. All right.
All right. And for that matter, on people getting what they deserve, the sleazy professor, Professor Callahan, does he get what he deserves for harassing Elle and treating Vivian so dismissively? You know, I love Victor Garber, and it's so easy to hate him in this movie.
He does such a believable job. I suspect that you two recognize that professor from a person or two that you have met. I like Elle so much because I identify with, like, the part. I owned this piece of clothing. I did not go buy this for this video, and I would have worn this to work when I was still at the university. There is certainly a version of colleague who would dismiss, like, the girl in pink for not performing Professor in the right way. And I love that Elle is, like, gonna wear pink anyway. I embrace that. But there are people who I think treat you dismissively because they don't take you as seriously. So I've met that guy, the sleazy professor, in real life. So let's hope he gets what's coming to him. Petty me. Let's see what the cards say. Are they petty too? Ooh. Okay, I got the chariot. The chariot plus the moon. I think the moon bodes ill for him. Like, I think that there's something and I mean, let's be clear about what happens in the film. He's kicked off a case and his student beats the charge, like, not him. So that sort of is a little bit of failure in the face of a person who really cares about presentation. So that's a little fear coming to life. But what do we make of the chariot plus the moon?
Well, and then also at the end, we learned that Luke Wilson, Dreamy McDreamerson, I cannot remember the character's name from the movie. It's Emmett, right?
Yeah.
It's Emmett. He leaves the firm.
Yeah.
Not that he was a partner, but he, was a part of it. So, like, the firm is kind of falling apart. What do we make of the chariot, though? Is this the chariot moving into the moon or the moon moving into the chariot? How do we read that?
The chariot is facing the moon.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it feels like in this path of the moon, maybe the chariot's riding down that path in the moon. Oh, that.
Yeah. I feel like he's got to kind of go on a journey through the dark. He's got to have a dark night of the soul, and ride through it.
He lost to celebrities. Like, he actually not losing in court, but lost as a client, a celebrity. That's a very public defeat or a very public embarrassment. So I would imagine that was a stain on his reputation in a big way. And Elle did not make any secret of precisely what happened between them. So, yeah. Okay.
I don't think he loses his job. I think it just takes a bit of a dive.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so we have our final question, and that is, what lesson does this gem of a movie leave us with? What timeless wisdom are we meant to take from the story of Elle Woods? I did enjoy rewatching this. It was fun.
I did too. A lot of movies and shows that I rewatch age poorly. Hello, Sex in the City, like things that I really enjoyed at the time that are like cringeworthy for their depiction of different kinds of things. This largely didn't age poorly. There were a few things that were a little like, a little off color, may have been approached differently today, but it largely felt like a girl. I felt seen. The girly girl in me who's like, I'm a professor and I like the color pink, was like, thank you, Elle.
I feel like this movie and the Barbie movie get along really well together.
Yes. Tell me I was humming the Barbie girl song.
All right. So what do we take away here?
Okay. We got some Vivian. Justice. This is one of the cards I pulled for Vivian. So we have Justice and we have the 5 of Pentacles.
This is such a movie about exclusion.
They're becoming lawyers. P.S.
Yeah, I know, right? But they're, I feel like Elle really feels the exclusivity of East Coast country club, top 5 schools.
Yeah.
When she tries to enter into that environment, what Elle does is she rebalances the scales. She shakes things up a little bit and she finds a new balance. I still wouldn't call Harvard Law the most like inclusive environment necessarily, at least not at the end of the film. And granted, they're class of 2005 or something like that at the end. So this was a long time ago. But I think, she moves the needle. And I think what Elle's inspiration can be for us is like, how can we move the needle? Like, we may not see full and complete change like we crave, but we can move the needle a little bit. We can tip the scales just slightly.
And that's wearing a dress that she is like, she has her heels on. I love it. Mm-hmm. What would it be like if Elle was a judge?
Fascinating.
I love it. I was thinking as I watched this movie, when I was on the job market as a professor, I had someone tell me that I needed to speak with a deeper voice because people wouldn't take me seriously because I have a higher pitched voice. Then I needed to laugh less. And it's not really nervous laughter. I just think a lot of things are funny. So I needed to laugh less or people wouldn't take me seriously. And I needed to wear smaller earrings. That was a woman who told me that. And I had an anxiety attack. I was interviewing at Yale, in fact, which has like Harvard Law energy. And I was like, you know what? I'm wearing a dress. I'm going to laugh as much as I want. I didn't get that job until I'm going to be me. I'm bringing that Elle energy. So anyway,
I love that.
Final thoughts about the movie. Those are kind of my final thoughts. I thought that it still felt relevant to me. I graduated college in 2005. I graduated high school in 2001. So this felt very like, I know exactly where I was in life when this movie came out. And it still felt very relevant to me. Like, thank you for seeing me. I still like my large earrings and I still have a higher pitched voice, I guess. I don't think my voice is very high pitched, but like apparently it's not deep enough for a serious professor.
I don't know. You're talking to the wrong person because I also have a pretty high pitched voice, which in my years of doing theater was absolutely something that I had to learn to modulate in certain instances. But I will say, when I shifted my focus, so here's another interesting thing. So I trained in theater. I was on an acting track, decided I didn't like that kind of, shuffled around for a few years doing stage management, found I really, really, really loved education. I did not teach like in public schools or anything like that in a more like formal setting. I taught in informal settings, which is where I really got like just super excited about teaching because there was so much freedom and flexibility in it. And I could use theater in ways that were really meaningful to me, and I felt like could have just a broader impact. And that was a career path that I found myself really defending and being defensive of for the many years that I did it, especially in circles where I was with other professionals. It's like, oh, because eventually for a long time, I was stage managing while I was teaching. And then when I built up my teaching career enough, I quit production work so that I could focus solely on that. And there is this kind of elitism that if you're teaching, it's because you're just trying to pay the bills or you're not successful enough as a professional, like working artist. And no, I taught because I thought it was really important to teach. And so I did find myself in kind of this situation of being looked down upon because of the work that I was choosing to do. So I don't know, it's just interesting. I think we always find ourselves in situations where somebody is going to have something to say about it, about what you're doing, whether it be work related, personal. And the lesson from Elle is like, who cares? like you're fabulous. Don't let anybody tell you any differently. And don't change yourself just to suit what somebody else wants, because what you bring to the table is the important thing. Yeah.
I thought that Elle was least authentic when you remember the first day she dresses up like in her smoking jacket or whatever. I always thought that when I was like kind of figuring out how to perform Professor, I was like, I'm never going to do it convincingly. If I wear tweed, no one's going to be like, oh, that girl with her piercings and her tattoos, she looks very Professor to me. You'll always look counterfeit. So you're kind of better off doing you. I think Elle, we celebrate her most when she comes around to like, I'm going to carry Bruiser around in a purse and also like do amazing in court. There's something
to court in a hot pink dress with her dog in a bag.
I live. All right. So we are going to wrap up as usual with a collective question, a question for the collective, to stay on topic. So we were just talking about this. We see Elle succeed in large part because she eventually gives herself permission to be entirely Elle. She's no longer trying to do Elle at Harvard. She's just doing Elle and succeeding at what she's doing with her perfumed resume and like the whole thing. So what ways, and as I was thinking about this question, it's a really deep question, actually, a really important question. What ways should we give ourselves permission to be our ridiculous, self-indulgent, pink wearing, like whatever our like quirk is that we feel like we need to take off in order to deserve to be taken seriously, in order to deserve success? Like we tell ourselves these stories. So what story do we need to stop telling ourselves? What this week do we need to give ourselves permission to do or be and still deeply believe we deserve to be successful with our high-pitched voice. We deserve to, be taken seriously with our stupid, like, keychain, whatever it is our thing is. So let's see. Do you have anything else about that question?
No, I think it's brilliant.
Okay. Okay. I have the world. We're getting some big cards today.
I have the Tower. Whew. I love this representation of the Tower. So here we have her literally kicking down the tower herself.
I love that.
With all of her strength and training. Um,
I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely indicative of breaking down those structures that we've built that we feel like need to be in place so that they appease other people. Like, actively tear them down. That is, and this is not a passive action. This is absolutely, this is active, forward, almost aggressive energy. Yeah, we're kicking that down so
I
that we can be the world.
look at these cards together. It feels like it's saying to publicly kick down what everyone else says that we're supposed to be and like tell people what we are in hot pink. Like, tell some truth about ourselves, about like the way we move in the world that we've been shy to do because of ego, because of expectation, and like just show the world our hot pink selves. I don't
Yeah.
know. This is advice I
And that's
did.
like, what is your hot pink? Like, it
Yes.
doesn't, what is your hot pink? Oh, I love
If
it.
you don't know what yours is, I feel like hot pink is transferable. If you're kind of left confused, hot pink is a good choice. But yes, everyone has their quirky, weird, fun thing they hide. So what is it like that you need to show the world? It just really feels like an invitation, like, a lot of people think of the World Wide Web, where we present ourselves on social media, that we need to show the world, like kick down some version of ourselves that is the false self. There's something for me to think about here. There's something for you to think about. This is big stuff. It's a big question. All right. That's our profound legally blonde insight. Bring us home, Amelia.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here and talking movies with us. You can stay tuned for our weekly videos. We're going to have more Sibyl Unscripted in July, and then we'll have Sibyl's Gab all throughout, and Danielle and I might be popping in and out doing some solo videos. If you haven't already seen hers on Goddess Decks, check that out. It's really wonderful. But in the meantime, you can check out the description box below for information on where to find us on social media, details about our decks, and where to book a reading or a mentorship with us. And until next time, we will see you in the lab.
See you in the lab, guys.